Okay, so I sat on the MTA, had a webinar, I believe it was last week, regarding the ARPA funds. So some of the things that I took from there to note was the first one being up to $10 million can be used now as what is called a standard allocation, which can be used for general services. So that kind of takes all those restrictions that were on that money before and loosens those up. They do not have to be allocated till 2024, do not have to be spent till 2026, which many of us know. One other interesting thing, which I know we discussed, I believe was last month, is that we can actually, interest can be gained on these funds, and then the township will be able to keep that interest on those funds. They did recommend during that webinar putting some money aside for use with the auditing assistants and reporting assistants. And one of the other questions, which I got an answer to today because it was not answered during the webinar, was whether or not those funds could be used as a match on grants like from the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation, DNR Recreation Passport grants, and those can be used. So that is a way to take, potentially that 500-something thousand and turn it into a much larger amount if we're able to match other grants with that money. So that was all I have for that. The Planning Commission did not meet this month, so I have nothing to report from there.
I just want to clarify one thing. You said up to 10 million. Did you mean 10 million or 10,000?
10 million. There was one township in Michigan that got $10 million. Wow. Yeah, it must be nice.
What do you have to do to apply?
We already did. That was how we got that 500 and, what was it,
60?
560, yeah.
Yeah.
What was it?
I think it's 540. 640.
No, it's five. Okay, now we're going to have to report the right numbers. Yeah, we only
I've
got
got it in my office.
I know.
I
think it's
trying
like
to remember
I thought it
numbers.
was 579, but what do I know?
Well, I know because it's between the village and the township, and
Well, and part of that we're going to have to split and.
No, they get theirs and we get ours.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not sending it. Originally, I was told we were going to get it all and have to split it, so the state finally did that for us?
They did.
Okay, good. All right. So, okay, I just wanted to clarify when you had said that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember what the threshold was for how much we could spend without having to be audited. Isn't it 750,000? We're under that.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to worry about auditing
Right.
at our level.
Yeah.
Single audit.
Yeah.
No, we don't even have to have an audit.
No, but they would, if you did, it would be a single
Right.
audit, which is.
Yes, but I've had
Very,
other
very
township
painful.
supervisors saying it's worse than any audit they've
is.
ever done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the good news is we're under the radar.
Mhm.
Okay. Treasurer?
My quarterly treasurer's report is in your packet. And I have a letter to read into the record, a letter dated January 19th, 2022 to the Holly Township Board of Trustees, Supervisor Cullis, Clerk Winchester, Trustee Ruth, and Trustee Burton. This letter is to inform you that I'm retiring as Holly Township Treasurer effective October 31st, 2022 at 12 noon Eastern Time. It's been an honor, an honor and a privilege to serve as the Treasurer of Holly Township for what will be a total of 14 years. I believe that the citizens' tax dollars are a top priority. Therefore, I am giving this advanced notice so that the board has adequate time to ensure a smooth transition to my new successor. I'm in the process of preparing an exit plan that will include my recommendations for the board's review. I will provide each member of the board with a copy of this report as soon as it is completed. I am retaining the right to rescind this letter of retirement at any time between today, January 19th, 2022, and October 1st, 2022. Because of the pandemic and the possibility of unforeseen circumstances, I am retaining this right. Very truly yours, Mark C. Freeman, Holly Township Treasurer.
Man, that came as a surprise. I didn't catch the original date. Your retirement effective when?
October 31st.
31st, but you retain the right to rescind it October 1st.
Okay, I gotta ask the question, how can you retain a right if you go out and find somebody else?
Well, I was going to say it.
Okay, before we get too carried away, I've done all the research on this. The board will have to vote and approve someone. They cannot appoint someone more than 30 days in advance. That's why I'm giving the first,
Okay.
because that allows the board the 30 days. If I haven't rescinded by then the board's will meet the qualifications of the 30 days.
So I guess I do have one question for you. When you talked about a smooth transition, would the board is it possible the board would look at somebody to bring somebody on 3 or even 6 months ahead of this to start learning stuff?
My recommendations that you'll receive before February 1st, you should receive it. I'm working on it, and my recommendations will lay out what I believe is in the best interest of the taxpayers, and then the board can decide, just so the board is aware. These are things that are in my report, but I cannot vote.
Right.
So when the board votes for a replacement, they can only do it 30 days in advance of my retirement date, and I cannot be part of that vote.
Okay. All right. Well, let me be the first to tell you thank you for your service. Like I said, that was a surprise when you dropped that, and then I realized I didn't get the date. So I got that straight. I don't know how you follow that act, but do you have any more for your report?
What's my severance pay?
Okay. You get to follow that act. Clerk's report.
I don't have anything.
Wow.
Okay. Who said you didn't have a flair for dramatics? All right. Supervisors report. I'm hesitant to announce this, but I'm happy to announce it, that we have actually gotten a meeting with County Executive Coulter on the ARPA funds that were allocated to the county in regarding the request that we have for the sewer project over on Dixie Highway. That meeting will be on the 30th of January. It is a meeting with both myself, Bob DePalma from Groveland, Ryan Bannon, I think is his last name, the new supervisor for,
Grand Blanc?
no, for Brandon.
I'm not sure.
Took Kathy Thurman's place. And then the village manager for Ortonville, along with the Water Resource Commission from Oakland County. So I'm hoping we'll have some good news come from that. At the same time, regarding the money that we appropriated for the, I think we appropriated, what, 66,000 for the, that grant has been submitted, the 50% grant. It had to be submitted by each township individually, so that's been submitted as well. We've also, after having a meeting with Mike Wilczynski, who is the retired Eagle employee that's been working with the Folk Road Group, I had a 4-hour meeting with him, and we have submitted a FOIA for the hydrology reports regarding the Holly Hills and that whole development out there. Apparently, the individuals have submitted FOIAs and not gotten requests, but Mike was good to give us the specific language of how to, sometimes these FOIAs are playing a game. You got to have just the right words to get what you're actually looking for. So that's been submitted. And then I will tell you that we have a bid on the windows for $800 at the Farmstead. And that project, we don't have a date for when he'll be out there, but it's with Matt Halberstadt, the same guy that did the doors on the front and the doors on the back. These are the windows on the new foundation that was poured. They're open there. The actual windows are already in the farmstead, or in the barn. They just need to be framed in, put in place, but that covers all of that. I think that's all in my report for now. Public comment on agenda items only. Members of the public can address the board on agenda items only, once recognized by the supervisor. Comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. The board may extend this time by a majority vote. Prior to addressing the board, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. A second public comment is available after new business for all other comments. Thank you for your cooperation. Anyone for public comment? Mary?
Mary Blanchard, 3444 Old Creek Drive, Holly, Michigan. And this is in reference to your commenting on the windows.
Hang on for a sec. Is the microphone picking her up? It doesn't sound like it. Sorry, Mary.
That's okay.
If you're going to comment, we want you to be heard.
Thank you. Me too.
Try it again. Testing.
Mary Blanchard, 3444 Old Creek Drive, Holly, Michigan.
There you go. Now you're
Thank you. This is in reference to the windows. And I'm wondering if when you have him come out and do the windows, if he could replace the window that's already in the south house
Yep.
with the one that's broken.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? John?
John Love, 200 North Saginaw. I'm glad to hear about the windows, because there's a few problems there. On this annual report, what's in that annual report? How do you get a copy of that, or what do you do to review it?
Just come into the office and I'll give you a copy.
Oh, okay. And that's the audited financial report?
Mhm.
That's what Mark made up?
Pardon
He
me?
made this report of the
No,
financial?
that's from our auditors.
Oh, I see.
Right. We get audited every year.
So that's the one that you...
That's Raymond.
That's the one you have then?
Yes. Mhm.
So there's no other goals or anything else for what's ahead in the year
Nope.
involved? Okay.
Anyone else for public comment on agenda items? All right. Old business, we have none. New business, we have near maps proposal for building department and code enforcement. Karen?
This is aerial mapping. There's very few. This is one of the best ones. That the oldest maps that are available are only 3 months old, so it'll give us the building department tools for that and code enforcement, as well as assessing. I mean, that's pretty much
So these are,
It in the
these, when you say
aerial.
3 months, these are aerial view?
and the oldest they are is 3 months.
Okay.
Is there currently any for Oakland County?
Oakland County, but they're only updated once per year, which is usually in spring.
They're done through GIS.
GIS, yep.
Are they even that
And they're
recent?
not even that, some of them, sometimes
say, I
not.
don't think they're
There's
that
some that have had periods of years in between.
But how do they commit to doing Oakland County, or do they? If you sign up for this, they commit to doing Oakland County details?
No, Holly Township,
Or Holly Township?
yes.
I think they do it all by satellite.
Yeah, Lake Orion, it's all satellite.
Yeah.
Lake Orion uses this.
And
And-
why is it better than the 2D we have now?
Karen,
Because it's current.
Orion Township uses this? Or
Oh.
Lake Orion, the village?
Orion Township.
Okay.
Thank you.
The other one is updated, well, it's every couple of years, I guess.
I mean, when you're doing code enforcement and you have blight and you can't get onto any of the properties, I mean, it's a very useful tool.
Okay, so nothing exists right now for Oakland County, but they will do this
Yes.
based on the,
Well, what exists for Oakland County, yes, there is stuff from Oakland County, but it's years old. It's not
oh, yeah,
updated.
but it's not near maps.
Right,
Right.
no.
Right.
No, and just so you know, the building department would be coming out of the building department was all fee-based, which has a very healthy fund balance. So we have the money, and I'm gonna start bringing some of these kinds of things like scanners and stuff to to update the township, you know, the building department, code enforcement.
Didn't we already approve a printing machine? In a I thought we had one, you came to the board for a printer a while back, no?
I don't know, not that I remember.
Oh, okay. Are you looking at, there's a 12-month here for 6,000, then you can get 5 years for 24,000, that gives you a year free.
Right, that's what I would suggest.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll use it all the time, and assessing can use it as well as a tool to make sure that they have, you know, all of the assessments, you know, the overview of the
Building-wise and
properties,
so forth.
building-wise, yes. Because we do have a lot of people that will build, you know, we have suspicious type things
Activity.
going on, and we can hone in on those. We have 2 existing that we're waiting to see on the property.
Will this
And you were
only
not
be-
allowed to go onto the property
Right.
Without a warrant.
without a warrant,
Will
right?
this only be used or can be used by people in the township or whatever, or is it open to
In
the public?
administration, no, just administration.
Can this be used for various projects, like, you know, the Farmstead, for example, you know, is one of the things that I was looking at, this kind of thing. This may benefit, obviously, we have the planners doing their thing, but there's all this different thing, you know, architecture, engineering, construction, all that stuff. So they could use that for that project, or we could look
Absolutely.
at it and say, you know, okay, looking at this.
Yeah, because we can give the rights to our consultants.
Okay.
You have to pay them before they can fly over and done this stuff. You do. That doesn't seem right.
What do you mean?
That you should pay for it before it's actually available, so you don't know what it looks like.
Well, Amy does. I mean,
I went on the site.
she's
I couldn't-
actually,
The only thing I could
she's
find was
used.
New York City.
Yeah.
They didn't have
Yeah.
Detroit on it.
On the few of them, she's actually called the Lake Orion
Okay.
to have him send her pictures of things that we needed. And that's who she'll be the one to be using it the most.
So Chair would entertain a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the purchase of near maps for the 60-month period.
Motion by Winchester, is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Burton. Any further discussion?
And so, you know, we've talked about enforcement and stuff. Is there ways we could potentially gain extra revenue by seeing things we couldn't see before? Or do we automatically, if we suspect something, we're going in there with a warrant and then citing the location?
Well, no, so for assessing, yes, we could. If somebody has built something that is not on the assessment records, then yes,
Okay.
it would be added. But for code enforcement, no, it would just be an enforcement.
I'll give
And
you-
then, well, and then in building permits, they would be forced to pull a building permit.
Okay.
But that doesn't go into the township tax dollars.
Mhm.
It just is to run the building
permit.
department.
Yep.
I'll give you one example. For code enforcement, we're not allowed to go past the threshold of the house. So we're in the front yard, we can't go in the back. Many people in Holly Township have acreage. If we get a complaint from a neighbor that the other guy is doing something that he shouldn't be doing, if we can't see it from the road, we can't, there's anything we can do about it. We've had a couple of situations in the township where there are reports of heavy equipment in the back. We know it's back there, we can hear it. We have no right to go on the property to see what's going on. But then the neighbors complain that they're getting drainage problems, they're getting these other problems.
Yeah, we have a mass issue.
So we've got a couple of serious issues that this would be helpful to be able to look from the top. It's legal, and you'd be able to say, okay, we can see what's going on. Now we have basis to get, as you said, a warrant to actually go on the property and verify what's going on.
Yeah, and you're not allowed to
Mm-hmm.
use drones anymore to do that. So if we would, and they were doing it for a short amount of time, but they've deemed that
Invasion of privacy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how's an airplane flying above taking pictures? Not an invasion of privacy.
Right.
I mean,
Because
What
somebody
would
in
be
the
the difference?
because somebody in the legislature said these guys can do this.
I don't know.
Okay, that's probably an altitude issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had all the reasons on the website why they can't. You know, it's got to be clear. Sometimes it goes 18,000 feet or higher or whatever. and no cloud cover, blah, blah. It has all these stipulations. So it may never be done. Yeah, I just don't know why you pay for it before it's done. But anyway,
Well, I think it's already done. It's just a question of gaining access.
no, it's not already done.
No?
At least I talked to the guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, but.
Well, at least they
but
say
then-
it's-
Then they're bankrolling our whole project. I mean, I guess, I don't know if I'd do that as a business.
Right.
we're
Well,
bankrolling if we're paying it first.
Right.
No, they'll,
But I mean,
I'm sure there's some
we know
plant
what
they
their
do above.
product
Right.
is, so, I mean, I'm comfortable. If you're not comfortable, you can have Amy take you to Lake Orion and have him go over it with you.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't have mentioned that to me.
Who?
The fellow from Nearmap, or the guy that called me back,
Oh,
but, because they didn't even have a demo of Detroit. I thought at least they'd have a demo of Detroit. Because you can see 3D with Google, you go right down to the city, but you can't measure anything. But you can see the stuff. So, okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ruth,
No,
Burton,
Yes.
Freeman,
No.
Winchester,
yes.
Ellis,
Yes. Motion carries 3-2. Next on here is Farmstead Project Manager. I put this on here because I know that things in government take time, and we've got some things that are coming up on the farmstead this summer that we want to start getting done. The HRC is working on the engineering. They should be coming to a close as spring approaches. We've got a couple of projects that'll obviously need to be first. And my question was, we need a project manager with some experience that knows what they're looking at when they look at plans. Just the project that we had with the barn when they picked it up and put it on a new foundation, we found ourselves in the middle of the contractor said this, the architecture said that. And if we had had somebody that was sitting down in these meetings and making sure everybody was on the same page and running it that way, and the projects that we have coming up with buildings, with foundations, the township office, these are big projects. I felt that we needed somebody that had the background to work, to be a project manager on projects of this magnitude. At the same time, some of the questions were raised, well, do you hire HRC to handle that? Are they the ones that handle all the contractors? If you hire an architect, is it the architect's responsibility to hire the building? And at what point, who's at what point defending the township? And if we run into a problem, then what do we have to defend other than we believed everything everybody said? My thought was a project manager was somebody that would work for the township. This isn't a full-time position. This doesn't come with benefits. My thought would be this would be a 1099. We have some retired people in the township that have a background in this kind of stuff. There are probably more people in the region that we might put an RFP out and see what they would get. In one of the conversations I had with Karen, maybe HRC offers that as a service. My question was, for the board, what avenue did you want us to take? What do you think would be the smart way to explore this? Because in the next couple of months, if we're going to do this, we need to start the process of putting the RFP out, looking at it. Because before you know it, summer will be here, and we're going to want to start putting projects together on the ground.
I would like to prefer a company so that they're held responsible. If we hire somebody as a subcontractor to us with a 1099, we're still responsible. So you have to oversee them. I would like to see a contractor that would be held responsible that has a business. I mean, but I think that we should pursue talking to HRC and our planner and see what other municipalities do and how that happens.
Is there any other companies besides HRC that does that kind of thing?
I'm not sure.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we can look into that, but I wanted to get a general feel for the board of what you felt was important, if this was a direction that we should be looking at, because there'll be a lot of research involved in this, and I didn't want to go there if the board felt that it wasn't necessary. Or if the board may come up with a better idea tonight than what I've thought. Just to give you an idea, some of the things that I thought would be of concern that we would want the project manager would be to work directly with the site engineers and the architects, to monitor the construction, to review all construction documents, to review RFPs for all the related tasks. They might manage submittals from vendors and subcontractors, depending on what we get into as we go down the line.
But we're gonna put that list together as a board?
Well, this is a list that I've put together just
Right.
as some suggestions. But I thought, yeah, the board needs to put and approve an RFP if we're going to put one out.
Right.
Just to finish the list that I had put together, review subcontractor bids, attend meetings with the supervisor's office, the architect, the engineer, issue reports to the township board as needed or as requested. Those are just some of the ideas I had. I'm looking for other ideas from the board, and I'm just looking for a general direction that you think we want to take.
Because HRC is currently doing what portion of
Engineers doing the engineering at this point.
this? Okay.
The engineering they're doing is they've taken the master plan that we've created. This is what we ideally think we would like. This engineering is saying, okay, the building can go there. No, the building has to move 15 feet this way. The building needs to be over there based on soil borings and so forth, what they find. They're looking at, okay, here's exactly where the on-ramps or not on-ramps, the acceleration, deacceleration lanes need to go. Here's where the road needs to go based on the topography of the property. That's what they're looking at now. They're also taking into consideration of where would the septic field need to go in relationship to the building. Where is the power? What kind of power are you going to need? Where is that going to go? Where are you going to get it from? That's what they're doing now. They're going to come back with a report and say, here's where you need to go. Then we need to go to the next step. And for this board, sometimes the question is, what would be the next step if we had an experienced project manager that had done these kind of developments? That person would come in and say, okay, next we need to go here. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Doug Henderson. He's a township resident. He's done this kind of work his whole life for different companies. That's the kind of stuff that if you had ever watched any of the planning commission meetings, he's very sharp at doing that. He might be that type of person. There are other companies that do development projects. My question was, what are the feelings of the board? I wanted to get some intake before I start doing research or going forward on developing that kind of a thing. I put it on the agenda for tonight. It's January. As we all know, most stuff takes 2 months, 3 months to get it rolling. Before you know it, we're looking at May and June. If you started in May or June, you almost lose your summer. So I wanted to try to get the ball rolling, and I needed input as we work toward that. So if you had questions, I'm taking notes, then we'll work on it and come back to the board with hopefully some answers and more direction.
Because I know, and what Karen brought up was something I didn't necessarily think or consider. But with the same thing doing that, I'd want it to be separate from the firm that's currently doing all the stuff. That way they say, oh, this can go there, and then this guy says, well, actually, it can really go over here. So we can say, well, we want it over there, and he says, yeah, actually, guys, we can move it over there. So he's not
Well, my thought is
intertwined with
a
those
project manager that would be working for us would have our interests in hand. And if you look at the project with the Farmstead, we had a contractor, we had an architect, and we had an engineer. And when we ran into the problem, you had the architect say, well, that's what the engineer said. The engineer said, but I didn't say to do this. The contractor said, well, I thought they said to do this. A project manager would have been able to, as that came forward, sat down and if they know what they're doing, which is what we're looking for, that's why you look for somebody like that, they would have been able to say, how's this going to work? What's the problem over here? And if nothing else, when it went wrong, project manager probably could have told you whose mistake it was. In that particular case, we had to have multiple meetings. We did avoid going to court, so we saved any court fees, but it took us over a year to resolve the problem, and we did it at minimal cost to ourselves. Everybody bit a part of the bullet. But a project manager, and that was a small project. These are going to be bigger projects going forward. And I felt that we needed somebody that had that development, construction, project experience.
Would this project manager, do you think, would be involved when you're writing the whatever you call it, request for proposal, RFP?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could go as far as he'd be
Right.
reviewing them, he'd report to the, then he would report to the board after he's met with the people who he felt would do the best job, because that would be based on his experience. Mark, have you anything?
I agree that we should have a project manager. And because of the fact that we received the gift, we've got the funding, and that's usually the big obstacle. So the funding is there. We have the master plan, which basically is a footprint, a
Yeah.
rough footprint, so to speak, that hasn't been fine-tuned yet. So I agree with the fact that I definitely want a project manager.
I
Whether
will-
we want to hire a company, one of the things to be cautious of would be someone, an independent person, that you'd be paying as an independent consultant or an independent contractor, and you're going to 1099 them. Now, they don't have an actual professional business. Let's say they don't. You're going to have questions about liability insurance. You're
And
gonna
I wrote that down, I
workers'
wrote business and
compensation.
insurance.
He's injured. Errors and omissions types of insurance, where a company will have those things.
I'm glad you brought up the funding side of it. This is a conversation I had with the donor. They thought it made sense, because I wanted to know if they would feel that it would be okay to use that money for that part of the project as well. There will be, as we go forward, a division between the Farmstead project and the actual building of the Township Hall. That's something the Township will fund, but the rest of the Farmstead project is kind of over there, but we'll be able to keep that clear as we go forward. So, but like I said, I'm just making notes on some of the things that we've talked about, and then I'll go forward and start putting some of this information together. And my thought is somewhere between now and March, we should be able to put out an RFP. So we'll have some information at the next board meeting and go over it. But I just wanted to see because to start throwing stuff up against a wall, guessing at what's going to stick, I felt that I should start here just to get some direction and some additional thought. Okay? No action has to be taken. I just wanted to go over that. Number 3 on new business is the approval of the 2019-2020 audited financial report.
And so really all I wanted to discuss here, working as a director of finance, usually I find it beneficial for them to come in and share with you, hey, here's what we found, here's the things that are going great, here's the viability, and looking at, so I didn't know if that was just a county thing or not, so I did do some research trying to see if other people do have the auditors come in to do presentations, and I found at least the 4 I looked up, they all do. I think that's something I would like to see in the future, because then they can kind of disseminate all 42 pages into a 30-minute, kind of overview of what's going on. So I think it'd be beneficial for all of us that way as we're making decisions with, where we're spending money, and we're spending money on this and that, to have from them, here's, where you guys are at. So that is what that's my feeling. So that was all I wanted to bring up for that, was seeing if we could have presentations done on the audits, whether that start with this one or whether that start next year or whatever the case may be, and then just have that ongoing.
I will add to what Derek said. Previously, I was on the village council. They always have their audit. I think it's a part of transparency. The other concern I have, and this is the way government's set up, and whether you're in this chair or not, or in any of these seats, you're stuck with dealing with what the legislature has set up, what the charter has said, and going forward. And I've said it before, sometimes you have to leave logic outside the door because it's what you're stuck with. The part that's always bothered me since I've been in this seat is that every year I have to sign a letter that says, I think everything's been done right. I don't see where there's any issues on any misgivings. I have nothing to do with the treasurer's office. But for me to sign a paper that I think everything's been done according to Hoyle has never made any sense to me. And I've attached a letter that basically said that, along with my signature. This year when it came up, I said to Karen, I said, what happens if I don't sign that? And she said, then it can't be complete because the state requires my signature as the CEO for the township. So
I sign a letter too, don't you?
we all three do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't have any detailed knowledge of the financial of, say, the building department.
So I think it would be good to have them come in, present it. We can ask questions at the time.
They have in the past.
Right, they have in the past. And
Okay.
it's always, I bet you never found anything that said there was a big problem. Because there's no problem. And how are we gonna question them if there's a gray
Well,
area?
there's always the same for every
Right.
small community, is that you can't segregate duties the way that the
Right.
state wants. So there are always remarks, but they're,
Right.
but they're the same in any community
Yes, up
made
here,
up like we
correct.
are.
Yeah.
And the-
But
and
there
the-
are
and
sometimes
the-
recommendations that we do things
Yeah.
different, or recommendations that this. So I think under the guise of transparency, I agree with Derek. I think it would be a good thing. Do we simply just say we'll do that, or do we have to have a motion
I'll
to go?
just make sure that the next one, which should be soon, they'll do a presentation, and I'll ask them.
Well, can we have them come
Well-
back and do this one?
I was just going to add something else.
Sure, go ahead.
If you want to finish that train of thought.
That was just a question. Go ahead.
I would be interested in considering other auditors.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be
Okay.
bringing that to the
I'm
board.
not, over the last couple, 3 years, haven't been overly satisfied with Raymond.
And this year was really bad.
Yes, it
'cause
was.
took
And
'em-
and I understand part of it was related to the pandemic, but this is something that's been building over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yes,
And I can send an email to you of a firm that we use, because we had switched from Raymond as well to using the firm we use now.
oh, good, okay.
So.
Yeah.
And they're from the UP, but they'll come and do
Oh, they
presentations.
do, yeah, okay.
So we can put this to next month meeting and have them come and present this?
I have to ask, so I don't,
Oh,
You have to ask Raymond to come in
Right.
and do it. Then if they'll schedule it, somebody to come, they will.
so we can postpone this till next month and find out?
Well, we have to approve, we don't have to,
we
but
should.
we have to approve the audit to
It's over a
complete
year
the
late.
consent agenda. Because we approved the consent agenda, but we had pulled the audit out.
Mhm.
Right.
So we would need to vote to approve the audit.
And then they can come and make
And
the
then they
presentation.
can come and make their presentation.
Because I was going to say, we did, just for clarification, we did approve the consent agenda because this was no longer part of it once it got pulled down.
Right, but I'm
Okay.
saying that part of the consent agenda has not been approved.
Correct.
So that would be a separate motion if we so choose. If we
Or-
don't approve it, it would have to go on the agenda next month.
Next month to be
and
approved. With the presentation, or after the
If that's
presentation.
possible,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Which in terms of the approval, I don't think it makes a difference if we approve this month or next
It
month.
doesn't.
It doesn't.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the 2019-2020 audited financial report.
Is there
Support.
support?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, my pen stopped. Bert and Ruth? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Winchester,
Yes,
Freeman,
Yes?
Burton,
Yes.
Ruth,
Yes.
Collis.
Yes,
Thank you.
5-0. Motion carries. Okay, we will move on to the final public comment, which is on any topics. If you're interested, John. Well, I guess John's going first. Whether you
I was
other
in the
folks.
front row.
Pardon?
I was in the front row.
Oh, is that how it works? Okay.
My concern is, I think we need to have a clear understanding of what the goals are for the township. Is it to, pave it over or preserve the rural atmosphere? What's taking place? And there should be some kind of a year beginning meeting about what's ahead. I'm unclear about what the status is for this new complex that you're coming up with out at the Farmstead. Are we going to move this meeting out there? Are we going to, what's ahead for the overhead costs? What's the budget for this whole thing? Is there some document that's available that explains these things? That's what I'd like to understand. There should be, you know, some kind of an annual meeting or something to understand what's ahead. I went to the meeting where they reviewed this plan, and that was so confusing, I couldn't understand it from what they were throwing out there in 15 minutes, and it was just vague with a lot of drawing and not really adequate description of what the costs are for the buildings that they had there, what's involved in doing it, what's the time frame. It's just vague information. And I restored a building in downtown Village here, and I had a professional engineer and company that I had to engage to review the plans, make sure that there was adequate structure and foundation. This isn't just, you know, what is this place? It could be a swamp out there. What kind of foundations are going to be needed out there? It's really very difficult to have to bring all the infrastructure that you have here. Who's going to be plowing the snow? Where's the water supply coming? What? All of these things out to the country. It's not the township. You're moving out of where the services are available. Whereas here, the village decided to move into this place, and for the money that you're even talking about, you can make a great operation right here as an alternative to this project out in the woods. So that's kind of, I don't know where I could go to find this out or what's in place. And maybe we should have a survey. How do the people feel about what they see ahead? One example of that was this deal with that non-conforming property in the guy's driveway where he wanted to give us $10,000. As far as I'm concerned, give it to him, because it's what's going to be built there. It would be a big, difficult project to even do. Do we want to have a house plopped out in the middle of an area like this? Just give it to him at the price and forget it. He's been here paying the taxes, living in the community. He has a better structure than trying to find somebody out in the city who wants to come out and move their trailer into a non-conforming lot. So these are I just don't see the need without a better idea of what the costs are and is there some kind of document that does this? Just that thing they threw out at that meeting wasn't adequate to do anything with. It was just, we'll draw us a few pictures and some green grass, and it's going to be a this and a that, without any square footage, what's required to do this. It's just a lot, and it's not even adequate for any kind of undertaking. So I don't know what your plans are of presenting what's ahead what's the goal for this next year? What have we accomplished last year? We put the door on the barn. We haven't even been able to paint it. They should have painted the wood before they put it up, and then they could have finished it up. So if it's going to take a year to put the door on the barn, what's ahead? It's just beyond the capability of based on the performance that's been done to date. So you need to, I don't know where to go to find this. What's your goals for this year? It's just some vague comments. There should be a written goals for this year. And what did we accomplish last year besides painting the door? So, thank you. Oh, a couple other things too.
Your 3 minutes,
I got
John.
one more second here on something else. They're going to have the snow sled race is going to be held at the park coming up on a big hill in February. So people can take advantage of that, come out and bring your cardboard sled. And then the other thing is they have turtles out there, and they said, well, there's one with a red eye. And she was saying, well, it's some kind of different species. Well, I looked in the book. If you have a red-eyed turtle, it's a male. So you guys have red eyes, and you get a nice clear claim. So when you go out and see the turtle, you can look.
Thank you. Matt? No? Oh, everybody's good? Anything else to come before the board? Then I will end the meeting at 7:17.